Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori.
And we are your Unlikely Housewives. Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go.
Hey, housewives.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are excited to be here. It is a brand new day. I was going to make a terrible joke there and say it's a brand new world. And for those that follow me would get it. It's like, ha. Anyway.
I mean, essentially it is.
It is.
I mean, every 4 years it's different, right?
Yes.
And it turns the world up or down.
Right. Depending on your perspective,
yep,
right?
Exactly.
So that is why we wanted to do this little brief election recap with you. You are either, I'll say, happy or sad, or dare I say joyful or mourning, because you are either hopeful for things to come or you are grieving what you think is to come, right?
Yeah. There's emotions in on both sides. And if you don't have a feeling either way, you probably didn't vote.
Right. Or you haven't been paying attention. Yeah. So I really hope that you've been paying attention. So with that being said, at the time of this recording, just to give you guys numbers and things that, so you guys know where we're coming from. Arizona and Nevada have still not been called yet for electoral votes for the presidential, but Trump has won with 295 electoral votes and Harris has 226. So you win with 270. And so therefore Trump has won. And then also Trump has won the popular vote with 72.7 million votes. And then Harris had 68 million. So not only did he win the electoral college votes, but he also won the popular vote. So, and again, the reason I'm saying that is because I just want you to know the context of which we're speaking and things, and for you guys to to know why some of the things that we say is what we say. So those are the facts at this moment in time. With that being said, President Trump is our president-elect and will be president number 47 and will be back in the White House in January. And like we said, you're either really thrilled about it or you're not so thrilled about it. But what we wanted to remind you is that God is still in control.
Yeah, that is key. That is one thing that we talked a lot about in our previous episode, voting for the audience of one, how so much of the, Christians or religion, just anyone who really focuses on biblical perspectives.
Yeah.
It really can get lost in, okay, well, that's not political or it's not biblical or either or. There's a lot of conversations in, the coming months up to an election. We had this discussion before, and it's one of those where you have to know you're going to stand on one thing and one thing alone, and that is your faith, your relationship with God.
Right.
And what is said in the Bible.
Right. And, there are lots of theologians and pastors who have interpreted the Bible in different ways. And you can think, well, the Bible doesn't explicitly say that, therefore God doesn't have an opinion on that. You can have that belief. But at the end of the day, the essentials that we all agree on as Christians is that Jesus died for our sin and we are all sinners, and that he rose again 3 days later after being crucified to take our place, and he intercedes on our behalf before God the Father so we can be in heaven with him and have eternal life. But we want you to remember, again, it's cliche, like, it's okay. God is still in control. And almost like, it's not something just to like pacify you. It is the truth. So, I mean,
I think the reason that we are even bringing it up and having this conversation is because we've been in this position of having to trust what we know and that God is in control when things haven't gone our way. I mean, even 2 years ago when we were doing the school board elections and it didn't go our way,
for sure,
we still had to know God is in control. You know, we have our kids I have my kids in public school. And while the things aren't the way I want them, and I don't have the people on the school board that I wanted on the school board, God is still in control, and he is in control of everything. And I get to decide based on my relationship with God and discerning what I want to do with my kids as you move forward. You know, it may be that he is in control and it's time to pull my kids from public school. You know,
Right.
like I don't know. That's not the situation right now. But we've all been in these situations where we do have to sit in that. Okay, what is it for me, from where I am, from where I live, from my perspective, you know?
Absolutely. And something for you to hold on to. I'm going to give you a couple of Bible verses with that for people. So Revelation 1:8 is, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, says the Lord, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. And that clarifies past, present, future. That says it all right there. And so if you need something truth to hold on to, that one is a great piece of scripture. The other one is, y'all know my favorite one, being Romans 8:28. And we know that the things work together for the good of those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. He uses all things, not some things, but all things. And so whether your candidate's won or not, he will use this situation, the consequences of our votes. And I say consequences not as a bad thing, but cause and effect. It's an effect of our votes for the good of those who love him. So, and sometimes for the good of those who love him is discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, you know, we have to prune our circles, ourselves, take things that are not ours, you know, and make ourselves better. And so at some point, you know, there is going to be something that the discipline that hurts. It's not punishment. It's just, you know, long suffering. So the other one I want to tell you is one of my daughter's Bible verses this week at school. Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And actually, God told Jacob that 3 times, be strong and courageous. And if you familiar some Bibles, like numbers are very important in the Bible, like how many times things like 40 is significant, 3 is significant, 7 is the number of completion. But so it is significant that he said it 3 times to Joshua after he became the leader after Moses. And so just like, be strong and courageous. Like it's repetitive. It's not just a, hey, be strong and courageous, and you are.
Yeah.
It's I'm telling you this, you know, you are this and you have to come to accept this. So God is still in control. Point 1, check. Point 2, biblical values are still on the ballots and will continue to be. Obviously, our eyes were all over the presidential election. However, there are other issues that are up on ballots that we need to be aware of, especially locally. On our own. So in our own backyard, you guys know that we're in Kansas, but next door to us is Missouri, which is just a stone's throw away. And Missouri voted to pass Amendment 3 in their state constitution, which approves and legalizes abortion up to 24 weeks. So that's kind of like mind-boggling here in the Midwest. But not 3 years ago, we also had this on the ballot to value them both. That one was not passed either. And so that also kept the abortion laws as is. And per Kansas.
Yeah.
For locally. But at the same time, in the same election, you guys, Florida rejected Amendment 4, which was to enshrine abortion rights into their state constitution. So while abortion is not illegal in Florida, it is legal up to 6 weeks. But they voted not to put any other restrictions or amendments into their state constitution, which for pro-life movement, that is huge.
Yeah.
Just making sure that it is restricted to, it's not perfect. It's not completely banned, but it is better.
Yeah. Well, and I think just for our listeners that are listening in, the awareness is our greatest mission here. Like where you are, what state you're in. I mean, clearly it's gone back to the state. And so what does that look like where you live? After this election, a lot of things, I know I feel a lot lighter, a lot happier, a lot more settled, knowing that we have some of the things that we believe in are going to be fixed, improved, moving forward.
Like
Implemented, yes. Moving forward.
Yeah.
Forward, motion is good towards what we talked about that's important to us, like closing the border and really getting a lot of
stewardship of voting.
We talked about a lot of things in the previous episode that really, align with where we are now and where we're headed. And I would just say that the focus that we're at right now is obviously we're happy, we're celebrating, we're looking forward, but we're not stopping. We're not looking back. We're looking at, okay, where do we go from here? And that's what we want to encourage you to do too. A lot of people plug in about 2 months before election and then check out after election. And we don't want y'all to do that because there's so much more ahead.
Exactly. And we have been checked out for so long. That's why we are in the place that we are in, I would say, because Christians have made excuses to not be in the quote unquote political arena. And that's not,
Well, and I don't know that it's as much as an excuse as it is, my husband and I were just talking about this too. It's how most were raised. Politics weren't discussed. Values weren't political or biblical values or political values or whatever you want to say weren't necessarily the dinner conversation like they are in today's age.
I agree, but wouldn't you say that as a kid, you knew where your parents stood on some of these issues? No?
Not really.
Really?
No, biblically, yeah. I knew where their foundation was, but it's not something that we talked about.
That's interesting. There's a huge difference between so election night, we're watching, I've got my laptop up watching Louder with Crowder. He's got Reuters on watching each electoral go on the iPad. And then we've got, a cable news legacy channel up watching it. And the moment was surreal for me because both of my girls are highly engaged, didn't want to watch anything else. They were looking at, and I'm looking at Andrew and I'm going, there's no way I would have done this at 11 or 10.
Well, that's same. And I think that's what I was getting at is we intentionally, thankfully we didn't have any activities that night, but it was communication. We are home, we planned this big fun family thing where we all make our dinner thing.
Yeah.
That was and so we sat down. We had the TV on, we had the iPad and the laptop open on the dinner table. We had one, thing muted. We were listening to another. And everybody that we talked about, candidates or who we were listening to, my kids all know who they are. It's a conversation. And I think that our job is to instill not just one foundation. Well, yes, one foundation, biblical foundation, Christian values in our home, and that everything is based off of that. And
Correct,
so
yeah.
we kept having conversations about things that were coming up that night. And we were all together. We're all on the same page. And we even had that conversation of like, well, when you get 18, you get to decide. Like
Right, yeah.
this is just our job and what we're doing now and what we feel is most important. And thankfully you don't have a say because you're not old enough to.
Right, exactly. You have no idea what you're talking about, but
No, it's cute when they try.
yes,
But
you're like, okay. But no, and I think you're right. I just think as like a kid, like I knew where my parents stood politically and like what our beliefs were. Not that we had conversations about it or not that we were talking about it at the dinner table or going to a school board meeting or anything like that. But I knew instinctively based on how my parents raised me, the activities and things that were important to them of what politically where we lined up with.
yeah, I didn't know anything. And even in college, didn't care. I voted, but it was literally, kind of a conversation of, all right, who I liked or who it was at the time.
Right. And I'm not like, I didn't know details. Like I voted in each presidential election since I could.
Same.
But did I select anything other than, a certain party down the rest of the ballot? Probably, because of knowledge? No.
Yeah.
I just was like, these are the people that I'm told that that agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not saying this to discourage you anyways. Like our goal here in this episode is to encourage you and say that one, the world is not over if you're not happy with the results.
Right.
It's not. God is still in control. You and I can disagree on what the world being over means, or what that looks like.
Or it's just beginning.
Or it's, yeah, exactly. So, whether you agree with us or not, God is still in control, despite how you and I feel. And then also that, we have to continue our civil duties, which up until COVID, I would say people haven't been taking seriously.
Well, and I think that is why this election was just so, profound in such a way that nobody was involved. And then 2020 hit. And then all of a sudden, and I say nobody was involved. Our generation, let's just start here.
Okay.
Like in our conversation and our, age group and our friend group. And, it's our demographic is
the problem. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's also becoming the new solution.
Yes, it is.
But it is also like the awareness that happened due to being home with our kids, jobs changing, just the awareness that was brought into our lives that we didn't have before. We were just on this, complacent, just living life, living the American dream.
We were
right?
in our own bubbles.
Yeah. And then when 2020 happened and that election happened and the questions came, it's so funny. I'm not on social media.
Well, even prior to that, think about, so the 2020 election, we had that. But March of 2020, when COVID hit, that is when I learned who our county commissioners were, because they were the ones that were setting regulations of where you could walk in with a mask or without.
Yeah.
I learned who my mayor was. I learned
who the school board was that was requiring my children to wear masks at school.
Exactly. School board members. Those names started to become household names because we were like, wait, it's not, because at the time, and at that point in 2020, Trump was still president, right? Mm-hmm. So Trump was president, but I didn't care whether he was saying one thing, but the person that affected me the most was my county commissioner and my school board. Mm-hmm. And so, again, that's what we're saying is that, yes, Trump and Vance are going to be in the White House, but who was elected and your county commissioner? Who are, was somebody on the school board newly elected? Who's in your state senate? Mm-hmm. Like, I now know all of those names that are going to be going in. And so I'm like, okay, these are the people that I need to stay on top of. Mm-hmm. These are the subjects that are important to me. And so I need to make sure that I'm regularly checking in with those. Right. And then the 2020 election where it was like, whoa, what happened? where more people were like, hold on, things are happening behind the scenes, or felt like it.
Well, and what I was going to say before is like with social media, thankfully, I haven't been on it since June. And it's been lovely to not have any of that to deal with.
But hold on, wait, can we just say that even though we're not on social media personally, we are on social media as Unlikely Housewives.
Yes.
So please comment, engage on our social media pages. We will see it, we promise. Because that is something that we are on for social media.
We're using it in that avenue. But I thankfully am not on it from a personal aspect. I do not see anybody and anything's information. Unless when you're in a group text and a friend is like, you've got to see what this person said, and they screenshot it. That's fun.
That is fun.
the point I was trying to make is we all became so hypersensitive and aware because of social media in 2020, because everybody was home. So everybody was sharing everything, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad from that election. And so the awareness did arise. Whether you did anything with it then and in the last 4 years, that's another story. But what we're trying to say now is, which I'm very well aware it's all happening still on social media. You know, we have people talking about it.
Social media still exists despite us not being on it. Hard to believe. I know. Yeah.
But it is there. You're going to see both sides again. Just take that time to step away and look in and look at your own values and look at where you're at, not just, you know, nationally, but locally. Because just like you said, it's so important. And to be able to say, like, yay, I was happy that Trump won, but locally, I was not happy with the results, you know? And I think that is something that a lot of people, okay, take a look at that. If you're not happy with the president, how'd you do locally? You know, like, okay, take a look at both sides and figure out where it is that you feel that your values, your alignment, and your heart, like, needs to be. Because again, it takes all of us being involved to create an quote unquote normal world again. We need to be in a space that is less divisive.
A country that's unified.
Yes. And I think, I don't know that we ever will be in our generation. I hope our children's, you know, future generations become a little bit more unified and less, you know.
I think we need to realize that we agree on more than we disagree on. And it is the media propaganda. And I'm saying media propaganda as in like cable news shows and newspapers and digital magazines, those things, because legacy media companies, they are for-profit businesses. They want the clickbait. They want you to just see the headline. They, you know, how many times have we clicked on something that has a headline and then you read the article and it has absolutely
all the time
goes into a completely different direction and you're like, wait, hold on. How did that, you just put that extra word in there so I would click what? And so those are the things, like, we want to encourage you to do your own research. Look at, like you both, and we both said, we both had multiple sources on for election night. Yeah. And it was amazing the differences of what they were all commenting on and the different perspectives.
Which would have been, I mean, that would have been a huge eye opener to a lot of people. If you would have had like at least 3 different, you know, and 2 of them were non-mainstream, by the way, which is, you know, what I love too. But it becomes such an eye-opener that not everything that is on the TV and the news or social media is true.
Yeah. Hey, how about that? And do the research. Like, don't take their word for it. Go and find the sources yourself, because we joke about health stuff and like you can Google coffee good for heart health, and then you can find 6 studies about that, and then coffee bad for heart health.
Oh yeah.
You know, 6 studies on that. So find, like, be a critical thinker in the aspect of like, okay, so yes, I see studies that represent, say, the complete opposite things. Well, is there an independent study in there? Or is Folgers doing all of the coffee is good for heart health, and then the energy drinks are saying coffee is bad for heart health because they don't want you to drink coffee anymore? Like, there is a, like, go deeper. Yeah. It's not just, oh, coffee is good for heart health. Wait, why? You know, like, again, it's raising critical thinkers, being critical thinkers ourselves, not getting content in the, oh, I'm just going to take their word for it. Like, no, it's actually like knowing what's going on and and looking into it and asking questions. Ask questions.
Be curious. I tell my kids that all the time. I love when they have a million questions. Why, Mom? Why? Maybe not so much in that phase of life. But why? But why? However, I do love
or when they don't want to do something and you're like, but why?
Yeah.
Because I said so.
I know.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
As a parent.
However, it is nice for them to be critical thinkers and being curious and asking questions because you want them to. You don't want them to be so, and honestly, I don't want my kids to just be one-sided. I want them to see everything from both sides so that what they do believe is a true conviction of the heart.
That is perfectly said.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as a believer, the truth wins. God is truth. Truth is love. Love is truth. Truth is God. Like that is all there. And if I truly believe that, the truth will always prevail. God will always prevail. He wins in the end. I read the last chapter of the book. Pretty sure. Yeah, I know what's going to happen. And so if I truly believe that, then I have to also be okay with that with my children, knowing that if I teach them to seek the truth,
right,
they're only going to find God. That is the truth.
Yep.
So if I encourage them to be critical thinkers, I don't have to tell them, well, no, go ahead, look for yourself. Do the research yourself. See, why that I believe in this, and then because it is true and people want the truth. But you're right, because then it does lead to that conviction of the heart, and they believe it so much more than anything else, and they're not just swayed by the wind or the next trend.
Yep. Or because my mom said it, or because my friend said it. It's what they actually think and believe.
Yes. So I hope that this episode has encouraged you in some form or fashion, that it is not the end of the world, or that it's not like, oh my gosh, now it's the beginning of the world. Like, everything's, rainbows and butterflies. It's not. There's still work to be done.
Yeah.
This is not over. We still need to be civically engaged citizens. We need to be engaged citizens. That's what it is.
Yes.
Sure. Whatever. I'm so tired. It's like election hangover. But I'm still sober. So there is that, guys. And so, we want that to encourage you and to remind you and to remind ourselves. Like, we took the next day off, but there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
Things to do.
Conversations to be had.
Yes. And a lot of it starts with that. It's just conversations. And remember, please, if there is somebody in your life that disagrees with you, you don't have to write them off completely. I understand that to a certain point, there is, like, if somebody's continuing to gaslight you and themselves, yes, that is an unhealthy relationship. But most of all, show grace, show love, show compassion, and truth. Share the truth with them. Like, just have a conversation. Remind people that, like, hey, they love you for you, not because of how you voted, or that because you have a name on your shirt, or something. So just remember that, because I think that's the other thing that has been so divisive, is that it's not that people are evil because they voted one way or the other. It's people ideas can be evil, and consequences of those ideas can be evil. So all of us are created in God's image.
Yes, ma'am.
So, well, we hope you'll be back next week with us. We have got some great guests lined up for the rest of this season, the fall here. We're going to be doing a special episode with our 100th episode, which I can't believe that we're going to hit 100 episodes for the Unlikely Housewives. So I hope you'll be celebrating that with us here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But until next time, housewives, bye.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes, and be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.